The silver ship moved slowly through Earth's outer atmosphere. Ambassador Zixathara pressed his three-fingered hand against the viewing window and stared down at the blue and green world below. His purple skin showed patches of nervous color change as he prepared for first contact with another species. "Are you ready, Ambassador?" asked Captain Velnara from behind him. Her voice carried the clicking sounds of her insect-like species. "As ready as anyone can be," Zixathara replied. He had done this 12 times before with other new species. Each time was different. Some were warlike, some were peaceful, some were strange beyond understanding. But this species called humans had sent peaceful messages when they first reached the outer parts of galaxy space. The ship landed in a large field outside a human city called Denver. Zixathara could see buildings that reached toward the sky like metal trees. Flying vehicles moved between them in organized lines. It looked like any other advanced civilization. The first surprise came when the humans approached their ship. Zixathara expected to see soldiers or guards. Instead, a small group of humans walked toward them with relaxed body language. They carried no visible weapons. Even stranger, several of them had small four-legged creatures walking beside them on thin ropes. "What are those animals?" asked Dr. Kent, the mission scientist. His large eyes moved quickly as he tried to catalog what he was seeing. "Unknown," Zixathara said. "They appear to be some kind of companion species." The humans stopped 20 meters from the ship. One of them, a female with brown hair, raised her hand in what appeared to be a greeting gesture. She spoke into a small device that translated her words. "Welcome to Earth. I am Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's representative for First Contact. We are honored to meet you." Zixathara activated his own translator and stepped forward. "Greetings, Dr. Chen. I am Ambassador Zixathara of the Galactic Council. We come in peace to welcome humanity to the greater galaxy." As they talked, Zixathara noticed more of the small creatures. They came in different sizes and colors. Some had long fur, others had short fur. Some had pointed ears, others had floppy ears. The strangest thing was how the humans acted around them. A small human child was playing with one of the creatures nearby. The animal was covered in golden fur and kept bringing a round object back to the child. Each time the child threw the object, the animal would run after it and bring it back. The child would laugh and pet the animal's head. "Excuse me, Dr. Chen," Zixathara said, pointing toward the child. "What is that creature doing with your young one?" Dr. Chen smiled. "Oh, that's just a dog playing fetch with my daughter. Dogs are pets. We keep them as companions." "Companions?" Dr. Kent stepped forward, his scientific interest clearly activated. "What purpose do they serve?" "No purpose, really," Dr. Chen said. "We just enjoy their company. They're loyal, loving, and make good friends." This answer confused the alien visitors. In all their experience with different species, animals served specific functions. Food animals provided nutrition. Work animals provided labor. Guard animals provided protection. But these creatures seemed to serve no practical purpose at all. Over the next several days, the aliens observed human society more closely. They visited homes, schools, and public spaces. Everywhere they went, they saw humans with these companion animals. In one home, they watched a family feed their pets before feeding themselves. The humans opened special containers of prepared food just for the animals. They filled bowls with clean water. They even had special sleeping areas set up with soft bedding. "This is fascinating," Dr. Kent said to his colleagues that evening. "The humans spend significant resources on creatures that provide no apparent benefit." In another location, they observed a building filled with sick and injured animals. Humans in white coats worked carefully to heal wounds and treat diseases. They used expensive equipment and medicine on creatures that could not pay them back. "Why do you heal animals that are not your own?" Zixathara asked the human doctor. "Because they need help," the doctor replied simply. "We have the ability to help them, so we do." The aliens exchanged glances. This level of care for non-productive creatures was unlike anything in their database of known species. The most confusing observation came when they watched humans interact with different types of companion animals. Some humans had large dogs that could easily knock down a small child, yet the animals were gentle and careful. Other humans had tiny cats that seemed to do nothing but sleep and make soft rumbling sounds. The humans appeared to have domesticated predator species, Dr. Kent reported to the Galactic Council. Yet they show no fear. The predators show no aggression. This suggests an extremely peaceful and nurturing civilization. Captain Velnara watched a human woman carry a small, fluffy animal in her arms like a human baby. Any species that treats other creatures with such care must be incapable of violence, she observed. The alien spent weeks studying human society. They attended meetings where humans discussed problems and worked together to find solutions. They saw how humans cared for their elderly and their young. They watched humans rescue wild animals from dangerous situations and nurse them back to health. Everything they observed supported the same conclusion. Humans were a gentle, caring species that valued life above practical concerns. They were willing to spend time, money, and effort on creatures that gave them nothing in return except emotional satisfaction. "I have reached my decision," Zixthara announced to the Galactic Council through long-distance communication. "Humanity should be classified as a caretaker species. They show exceptional nurturing behavior and appear to have no significant military capabilities." "Are you certain?" asked Council Leader Braxnon. "What about their technology level?" "Advanced in peaceful applications," Zixthara replied. "Their weapons appear to be limited to basic defensive systems. They have no war fleets, no battle stations, no aggressive expansion patterns. Most importantly, they have formed emotional bonds with creatures they could easily dominate. This indicates a fundamental inability to exploit other species." The Council agreed. Humanity was welcomed into galactic society as a caretaker species, the lowest military classification. Caretaker species were expected to provide humanitarian aid and peaceful services. They were not expected to contribute to military operations or defend contested territories. Dr. Chen signed the agreements that brought humanity into the Galactic Council. As she put down the electronic pen, she looked at Zixthara with a strange expression. "Is something wrong?" the ambassador asked. "Not wrong exactly," Dr. Chen said. "I just hope you never have to learn why this classification might be inaccurate." "What do you mean?" Dr. Chen picked up a photograph from her desk. It showed a large dog sitting peacefully next to a small human child. "We don't keep pets because we're gentle, Ambassador. We keep pets because we're the only species on our planet that was dangerous enough to make friends with wolves." Zixthara did not understand what she meant. The concept seemed contradictory. How could making friends with animals be a sign of danger? He filed her comment in his report as an example of human modesty. Clearly, this peaceful species was too humble to accept their proper classification as gentle caretakers. The Galactic Council processed humanity's membership and assigned them to peaceful sectors. They would be protected by stronger, more militaristic species. Humans would contribute through medical aid, scientific research, and care for refugee populations. It seemed like a perfect arrangement. The galaxy had gained a species dedicated to nurturing and healing. What could possibly go wrong? 2 years after first contact, human colonies spread across several star systems within Galactic Council space. The aliens watched with continued amazement as humans brought their strange companion animals to every new world they settled. On the mining colony of Kepler 442b, the first thing humans built after their landing pad was a veterinary clinic. Dr. James Rodriguez unpacked medical equipment designed specifically for treating animals while his alien observers scratched their heads in confusion. "Dr. Rodriguez," said Velnara, who had been assigned as a permanent human observer, "your species has limited cargo space on interstellar flights. Why did you choose to bring medical equipment for animals instead of additional tools for mining?" Dr. Rodriguez looked up from a device that took pictures of animal bones. "Because our dogs and cats are family members. We wouldn't leave family behind, and we won't let them suffer if they get sick." Velnara made notes on her electronic pad. Another example of humans putting emotional needs above practical efficiency. This confirmed everything the Council believed about human nature. In the agricultural colony of New Eden, humans did something even stranger. They found small creatures that looked like rabbits living in the wild. Instead of hunting them for food or driving them away from crops, the humans built special shelters for them. They even set up feeding stations to make sure the creatures had enough to eat during the cold season. Dr. Sarah Chen, now serving as humanity's chief liaison with the Council, tried to explain this behavior to a gathering of alien scientists. "We call it conservation," she said. "When we settle a new world, we try to protect the life forms that were already there. These creatures were here first. We're just visitors." Dr. Kent, the scientist from First Contact, raised his hand. "But Dr. Chen, your species has superior technology and intelligence. You could easily reshape these worlds to meet your exact needs. Why do you limit yourselves to accommodate primitive life forms? Dr. Chen paused, choosing her words carefully. Because having the power to destroy something doesn't mean you should. We learned that lesson a long time ago on Earth. The aliens interpreted this as further proof of human gentleness. They had never encountered a species that voluntarily limited its own expansion to protect weaker creatures. Meanwhile, disturbing reports reached the Council from human space. Several alien species had tried to establish military bases near human colonies, expecting the gentle humans to welcome the protection. Instead, they were politely but firmly turned away. "We appreciate the offer," Captain Marcus Webb had told a Krexani war fleet commander. "But we'll handle our own security arrangements." The Krexani commander was confused. "Your species has no significant military capability. How can you provide adequate defense?" "We have what we need," Captain Webb replied. When the Krexani requested permission to observe human defensive preparations, they were denied access. Captain Webb explained that humans preferred to keep their security measures private. This puzzled the Council even more. Most peaceful species were eager to demonstrate their lack of military capability to avoid being seen as threats. Humans seemed almost secretive about their defenses. Council leader Braxnon called a meeting to discuss these reports. "Perhaps humans are simply embarrassed about their weak military," suggested Korth. "Many peaceful species feel inadequate when compared to warrior cultures. That would explain their reluctance to discuss defense," agreed Dr. Kent. "They know their capabilities are limited compared to true military species." Unknown to the Council, Captain Webb was at that moment training human space marines in live fire exercises. The training took place in a hidden asteroid base far from any alien observation posts. "Remember," Webb told his soldiers as they practiced boarding hostile ships, "we're officially classified as peacekeepers. The Council thinks we're basically armed janitors. Let's keep it that way until someone gives us a reason to show them otherwise." The Marines nodded. They had all seen the alien military forces. Impressive in numbers and technology, but their tactics were predictable. They fought like creatures that had never faced real predators. Sergeant Maria Santos raised her hand. "Sir, what if they ask direct questions about our capabilities?" "Tell them the truth," Webb replied. "We're prepared to defend ourselves and our allies. Just don't mention that our idea of adequate preparation might be different from theirs." Back on Earth, more alien observers arrived to study human society. They attended human schools and watched children learn about animals. The lessons amazed them. A teacher showed pictures of Earth's extinct creatures to her students. "This is a saber-toothed cat," she explained. "They died out about 10,000 years ago. These were some of the most dangerous predators on our planet." A student raised her hand. "Did humans hunt them?" "Sometimes," the teacher said. "But we also competed with them for food and territory. Eventually, they couldn't adapt to the changing world as well as humans could." The alien observer, Dr. Kent, made careful notes. Humans had apparently shared their world with multiple predator species and survived through cooperation and adaptation rather than violence. This explained their gentle nature. What Dr. Kent didn't understand was the full story. The teacher had simplified the explanation for young children. The reality was more complex and considerably more frightening from an alien perspective. Dr. Chen tried to provide more context during her regular briefings with alien scientists. "Human evolution is complicated," she explained. "We developed as persistence hunters. We didn't need to be faster or stronger than our prey. We just needed to be smarter and more determined." "Persistence hunting?" asked Velnara. "What does that mean?" "It means we would follow an animal until it collapsed from exhaustion, sometimes for days. We might not catch it on the first day or the second day, but eventually it would get tired and we would catch it." The aliens found this explanation disturbing, but in the wrong way. They thought it sounded like cruel behavior that humans had evolved beyond. They didn't understand that the same mental traits that made humans capable of persistence hunting also made them capable of persistence warfare. On the colony world of Haven, humans demonstrated their strangest behavior yet. They discovered a species of large predatory lizards that reminded them of Earth's dinosaurs. Instead of killing or avoiding these dangerous creatures, humans began studying them. Dr. Lisa Wong, a xenobiologist, spent months observing the lizards from a safe distance. She learned their behavior patterns, their social structure, and their hunting methods. When one of the creatures was injured in a landslide, she convinced the colonial government to mount a rescue operation. "It's a dangerous predator," argued the colony administrator. "Why risk human lives to save it?" "Because it's the apex predator of this ecosystem," Dr. Wong replied. "If we remove it, the whole food chain could collapse. Plus, it's not really dangerous if you understand its behavior and respect its space." The rescue operation succeeded. The injured lizard was treated and released back into the wild. Alien observers watched in amazement as humans risked their lives to save a creature that could easily kill them. "This confirms all our theories," Dr. Kent reported to the council. "Humans are incapable of seeing other species as threats. They respond to dangerous creatures with curiosity and compassion rather than fear or aggression." The report was filed under caretaker species behavior and used as an example of why humans needed protection from more aggressive civilizations. Dr. Chen read the report and shook her head. She requested a private meeting with Ambassador Zixathera. "Ambassador," she said, "I think there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about human nature." "What kind of misunderstanding?" Zixathera asked. "You keep interpreting our behavior as weakness. You see us caring for animals and think we're helpless. You see us studying predators and think we're naive. But you're missing the important part." "Which is?" Dr. Chen pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's ecosystem. "We're not gentle with animals because we're weak. We're gentle with them because we're strong enough to be. The reason we can afford to care for pets, rescue wild animals, and study dangerous predators is because we're not afraid of them." "I don't understand." "Ambassador, we domesticated wolves." "Do you know what wolves are?" Zixathera accessed his database. "Carnivorous pack hunters. Apex predators in their environment." "Right. And we didn't domesticate them by being gentler than they were. We domesticated them by being more dangerous than they were. They became our pets because we were the only species on the planet that they couldn't beat." Zixathera stared at her. The concept was so alien to his understanding that he couldn't process it. Dr. Chen continued. "Every species that we call pets was once wild. Wolves, cats, horses, birds. We turned predators and prey animals into companions. That's not something a weak species could do." "But our behavior suggests that we're secure in our position as the dominant species. We can afford to be kind because we don't need to prove how dangerous we are." The ambassador left the meeting confused and troubled. Dr. Chen's words didn't match any pattern in the council's xenobiological database. He filed her comments as an example of human pride and continued to classify humanity as a gentle, peaceful species. He had no way of knowing that this misunderstanding would soon have catastrophic consequences for the entire galaxy. The first warning came from a deep space monitoring station on the edge of Council territory. Sensor operator Trixanol was finishing her night shift when strange readings appeared on her screen. "What in the void is that?" she muttered, adjusting the controls. The readings showed massive energy signatures moving toward Council space. The patterns were unlike anything in the database. Within hours, the readings resolved into a fleet of unknown ships. They were huge, dark vessels that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. There were thousands of them, moving in perfect formation toward the populated systems of the Galactic Rim. Council leader Braxanon called an emergency session. Representatives from dozens of species gathered in the Great Chamber, their various forms of communication creating a chaos of sounds and electronic signals. "The unknown fleet has ignored all attempts at communication," Braxanon announced. "Long-range scans indicate technology levels equal or superior to our own. We are treating this as a potential hostile contact." Ambassador Zixathera raised his hand. "What about standard first contact protocols? Perhaps they simply don't understand our communication methods." "We've tried everything," replied Admiral Kethvar, the Council's military commander. "They haven't responded to any signals. Mathematical sequences, prime numbers, even basic light patterns, nothing." Dr. Kent, now serving as the Council's chief xenobiologist, accessed his portable computer. Based on ship design and movement patterns, these could be the Zarathi Empire. We have limited information about them from our furthest exploration missions. "Tell us what you know," Braxanon ordered. "The Zarathi are an aggressive expansionist species from beyond our normal exploration range. They practice total warfare and show no interest in negotiation or coexistence. Every species they encounter is either enslaved or eliminated." A wave of worried sounds filled the chamber. The Council had dealt with aggressive species before, but most could be reasoned with or contained through superior force. Total warfare was something they rarely encountered. "How long until they reach our outer colonies?" asked Braxnon. 48 hours to the rim systems, Admiral Kethvar replied. 72 hours to major population centers. The Council moved into crisis mode. Emergency evacuation orders went out to the outer colonies. Military fleets began moving toward defensive positions. Diplomatic channels opened to every ally and neutral power in the region. Dr. Sarah Chen sat in the human observation section, listening to the debate with growing concern. When the Council called for input from member species, she requested permission to speak. The human colonies in the threatened sectors have approximately 2.3 million civilians, she reported. "We formally request assistance with evacuation procedures." "Of course," Braxnon replied. "All civilian populations will be relocated to secure systems. Your caretaker classification means you'll be given priority protection." Dr. Chen stood up. "With respect, Council Leader, we'd like to decline evacuation assistance." The chamber fell silent. Admiral Kethvar's translator crackled as he processed the words. "Dr. Chen, perhaps there was a translation error. You're requesting to remain in the combat zone?" "That's correct. We believe we can defend our colonies." Dr. Kent leaned forward in his seat. "Dr. Chen, no disrespect intended, but your species has no significant military capability. The Zarathi will have battle-hardened warriors and advanced weapons. Your peacekeeping forces would be overwhelmed in minutes." "Maybe," Dr. Chen said, "but we'd like the chance to try." Admiral Kethvar brought up tactical displays showing Zarathi fleet compositions. "Look at these numbers, Dr. Chen. Each Zarathi battlecruiser carries enough firepower to level a city. They have troop transports designed for planetary assault. This isn't a job for security guards and civil engineers." "We understand the risks," Dr. Chen replied calmly. Council Leader Braxnon made the decision. "I'm sorry, Dr. Chen, but I can't allow civilians to remain in a combat zone. The evacuation order stands for all human colonies." Dr. Chen's expression didn't change. "Council Leader, with respect, the evacuation order assumes you have authority over human military decisions." "You don't. What do you mean?" "Check your records. When humanity joined the Council, we signed agreements covering trade, scientific cooperation, and diplomatic relations. We never signed anything giving the Council authority over human military operations." Admiral Kethvar quickly accessed the legal databases. After several minutes, he looked up with confusion. "She's right. The human membership agreements don't include military command structures." "That's an oversight," Braxnon said. "All member species operate under Council military authority during crisis situations." "All member species except humans," Dr. Chen corrected. "We specifically negotiated to maintain independent military command. We just never mentioned that we had a military worth commanding." The chamber erupted in confused discussions. Dr. Kent's voice cut through the noise. "Dr. Chen, what exactly are you saying?" "I'm saying that the caretaker classification was based on incomplete information. We never lied to you, but we never told you the whole truth either." Ambassador Zix Thera stood up, his skin showing the purple patterns of extreme agitation. "Dr. Chen, are you telling us that humans have been hiding military capabilities?" "We haven't been hiding anything. We've been quietly preparing for the possibility that someone might threaten our colonies or our allies. Today that possibility became reality." "But your behavior," Dr. Kent sputtered. "Your gentle treatment of animals, your peaceful expansion, your refusal to discuss weapons." "Our treatment of animals shows that we understand the responsibility that comes with being a dominant species," Dr. Chen replied. "Our peaceful expansion shows that we prefer cooperation to conquest. Our refusal to discuss weapons shows that we understand how dangerous detailed military information can be." Admiral Kethvar was frantically accessing human observation reports. "This makes no sense. Our observers have monitored human space for years. We've seen no military buildup, no weapons testing, no aggressive maneuvers." "Because you weren't looking in the right places," Dr. Chen said. "Captain Webb, would you please join us?" A door at the back of the chamber opened. Captain Marcus Webb walked in wearing a uniform that none of the aliens had seen before. It was dark blue with silver insignia that seemed to shift and change in the light. "Council members," Webb said, "I am Captain Marcus Webb, commanding officer of the Human Space Defense Force." "Space Defense Force?" Admiral Kethvar repeated. "Our records show no such organization." Your records show what we wanted them to show, Webb replied. We've been operating under strict information security protocols since joining the Council. Dr. Kent's large eyes were rapidly changing color, a sign of extreme stress in his species. How is this possible? We monitored human industrial output, energy consumption, resource allocation. There was no evidence of military production. Because we learned a long time ago to prepare for war while hoping for peace, Dr. Chen said. Every human colony has defensive capabilities. Every human industrial facility can be converted to military production. Every human civilian has basic training in emergency procedures. But the Zerathi, Braxenon started. The Zerathi made a mistake, Captain Webb interrupted. They've been watching Council space and planning their invasion based on your military doctrines. They've studied your tactics, your weapons, your fleet formations. They think they know what they're facing. And they don't? Admiral Kethvar asked. Captain Webb smiled, and several aliens instinctively moved back from the expression. There was something predatory about it that triggered ancient survival instincts. Admiral, they've prepared to fight the Galactic Council. They haven't prepared to fight humans. The first Zerathi ships entered the Outer Rim systems 12 hours later. Their communications officers sent standard intimidation broadcasts to the planets below. Surrender immediately, the messages said. Resistance will result in total destruction of civilian populations. You have 1 hour to comply. On the human colony of New Geneva, Admiral Kate Morrison sat in the command center of what the aliens thought was a civilian communication facility. Banks of screens showed Zerathi fleet positions, weapon signatures, and tactical assessments. Admiral, her communications officer said, we're receiving surrender demands from the Zerathi fleet. Morrison looked at the tactical display. 60 Zerathi battlecruisers in standard intimidation formation. Their intelligence about human capabilities was clearly as incomplete as the Council's had been. Reply with standard diplomatic protocols, she ordered. Tell them we're forwarding their message to the appropriate authorities. Ma'am, they're demanding an immediate response. Morrison activated the fleet communication system. Her voice reached every human ship in the system and every human command post on the planet below. All units. This is Admiral Morrison. The Zerathi Empire has demanded our surrender. I'm sure I don't need to tell you what our response will be. Across the system, human warships that had been disguised as civilian vessels began shedding their false hulls. Mining ships revealed weapons arrays. Transport vessels deployed fighter squadrons. What the Zerathi thought was a defenseless colony system suddenly. The Battle of New Geneva began at 1430 ship time when the first human missiles reached the Zerathi fleet. The aliens had expected human weapons to follow Council military standards. Long-range bombardments, formal targeting protocols, and plenty of warning before firing. Instead, human ships appeared from nowhere and struck like wolves attacking a herd of prey animals. Commander Zekthul of the Zerathi battlecruiser Dominator watched his tactical display with growing confusion. The human ships moved in ways that defied standard military doctrine. They accelerated toward his fleet at speeds that should have killed their crews, pulled turns that should have torn their ships apart, and coordinated their attacks with a precision that seemed impossible. Sir, his weapons officer reported, the human vessels are approaching to knife-fighting range. Should we withdraw to maintain proper bombardment distance? Negative, Zekthul replied. If they want to fight close in, we'll give them close in. Charge plasma cannons and prepare for broadside engagement. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for decades afterward. The human ships didn't engage in the traditional broadside duels that Zerathi commanders expected. Instead, they swarmed like a pack of predators, each ship covering another's weaknesses while exploiting every gap in Zerathi defenses. The UES Fenrir, Admiral Morrison's flagship, dove under the Dominator's firing arc, while 2 escort ships hit the battlecruiser's weapon batteries from opposite sides. By the time Zekthul realized what was happening, his ship had lost half its guns and taken critical damage to its engines. How are they moving like that? Demanded his navigation officer. Their acceleration readings are impossible. No organic crew could survive those G-forces. Zekthul didn't understand that humans had spent centuries perfecting acceleration compensation. What killed other species only made human pilots more focused and determined. Lieutenant Sarah Kim pulled 8 Gs in a tight turn that brought her fighter squadron behind a Zerathi destroyer. Her enhanced physiology, developed through millions of years of persistence hunting, allowed her to stay conscious and effective while alien pilots would have blacked out. Fox Squadron, this is Fox Leader, she transmitted to her pilots. Remember your training. These aren't sparring partners. They came here to kill our families. The reminder wasn't necessary. Every human pilot knew exactly what they were fighting for. The settlements below contained their homes, their loved ones, and their pets. The thought of Zarathi troops threatening any of that was enough to turn disciplined soldiers into something far more dangerous. On the planet's surface, Zarathi assault troops faced an even bigger surprise. They had prepared for typical Council resistance, organized military units fighting from prepared positions using standard defensive tactics. Instead, they found humans who fought like the persistence hunters their ancestors had been. Sergeant Maria Santos crouched behind cover in New Geneva's residential district, watching Zarathi shock troops advance down a tree-lined street. Her squad was outnumbered 3-1, but that didn't worry her. Numbers only mattered if you fought like prey animals. Remember, she whispered to her soldiers through their communication implants, we don't fight fair. We fight smart. The Zarathi troops moved in standard formation, expecting human defenders to engage them from fixed positions. Instead, Santos and her squad moved like wolves hunting elk. They struck at the edges of the enemy formation, disappeared before the aliens could respond, then struck again from a different direction. Private Johnson took out 2 Zarathi soldiers with precise sniper fire, then abandoned his position before return fire could reach him. Corporal Lee used remote explosives to collapse a building onto the alien advance, then melted away into the urban landscape before the dust settled. The Zarathi commander, Major Zarvan, watched his troops advance slow to a crawl as humans appeared and disappeared like ghosts. This wasn't how civilized species were supposed to fight. Where were the formal battle lines? Where were the negotiated rules of engagement? Sir, his communications officer reported, the humans seem to be using guerrilla tactics. They're not engaging in proper military combat. Define proper, Zarvan replied grimly. 3 more of his soldiers had just disappeared in a precisely coordinated ambush. The humans were cutting his force apart piece by piece, and he couldn't even see them most of the time. What the Zarathi didn't understand was that humans had never forgotten the lessons learned from millions of years of evolutionary pressure. They instinctively coordinated their movements, communicated through subtle signals, and adapted their tactics in real time based on enemy responses. Captain Webb arrived on the battlefield with reinforcements just as the Zarathi were beginning to realize the scope of their miscalculation. He found Sergeant Santos regrouping her squad after another successful hit-and-run attack. Status report. Sergeant, he ordered, we've eliminated approximately 40% of their ground forces, sir, Santos reported. They're starting to bunch up in defensive formations, which should make them easier targets for artillery strikes. Webb nodded. The Zarathi were reacting to human tactics by falling back on their training, which made them predictable. Predictable enemies were dead enemies. Sir, Santos continued, they keep trying to communicate with us, offering terms for surrender, asking why we won't engage in proper combat. I don't think they understand what kind of species they're fighting. Then let's educate them. Webb replied. The lesson came in the form of a coordinated assault that demonstrated everything the Galactic Council had missed about human nature. Human forces didn't just fight as individuals or even as units. They fought as a single coordinated organism with thousands of moving parts. Artillery strikes softened Zarathi positions, while sniper teams eliminated officers and communication specialists. Assault troops hit weak points identified by reconnaissance drones, while electronic warfare specialists jammed enemy communications and sensor systems. But the most terrifying aspect of human warfare wasn't their technology or their tactics. It was their attitude. Dr. Lisa Wong, the xenobiologist who had rescued the injured predator lizard on Haven, now found herself treating wounded soldiers in a field hospital. Between patients, she watched footage from the battlefield on portable screens. Look at that, she said to her medical assistant, pointing at images of human soldiers advancing through enemy fire. They're not fighting like prey animals running from predators. They're fighting like predators who've been challenged for their territory. The assistant, a young man named David, watched as human troops systematically dismantled Zarathi defensive positions. They look angry. Not angry, Dr. Wong corrected. Determined. There's a difference. Angry creatures make mistakes. These soldiers aren't making mistakes. She was right. The humans fighting on New Geneva weren't driven by rage or hatred. They were driven by the same cold determination that had allowed their ancestors to track wounded animals across hundreds of miles of wilderness. They would not stop, they would not tire, and they would not give up until the threat to their pack was eliminated. Major Zarvin finally understood what his forces were facing when he watched human soldiers assault his command post. They moved with a coordination that seemed telepathic, covering each other's movements with an efficiency that spoke to millions of years of cooperative hunting. Fall back to the landing zone, he ordered his remaining troops. This isn't a battle we can win. But even retreat proved more difficult than expected. Human forces seemed to anticipate every move his troops made. Escape routes were cut off before his soldiers could reach them. Supply drops were intercepted or destroyed. The humans fought like they had studied Zarathi tactics for years instead of hours. In space, the battle was reaching its conclusion. Commander Zekthul's fleet had been reduced from 60 ships to fewer than 20, and those were too damaged to continue fighting effectively. The humans had lost only 3 vessels, and even those had been evacuated before destruction. "Sir?" His communications officer reported. "The human admiral is requesting a channel." "Put her through," Zekthul replied. Perhaps the humans would be willing to negotiate terms. Admiral Morrison's image appeared on his screen. She looked tired but not defeated. Behind her, Zekthul could see human crew members working calmly at their stations, as if the battle had been routine training exercise. "Commander," Morrison said, "I'm offering you one chance to withdraw from this system. Take your remaining ships and leave. Don't come back. And if we refuse?" Zekthul asked. Morrison's expression didn't change. "Then we'll finish what you started." "Your choice." Zekthul looked at his tactical display. His fleet was broken. His ground forces were trapped on the planet below, and the humans showed no signs of slowing their assault. For the first time in his military career, he was facing an enemy that seemed genuinely indifferent to their own casualties. "We withdraw," he said. "Smart decision," Morrison replied. "Oh, and Commander, send a message to your superiors. Tell them that humans don't negotiate with species that threaten our families. Tell them we don't fight for territory or resources. We fight to protect our pack. And tell them that if they come back, we'll hunt them across the galaxy until every last one of them is dead." The transmission ended. Zekthul stared at the blank screen for several seconds before giving the order to Rhett. The recordings from New Geneva reached every corner of the galaxy within hours. Council military analysts sat in stunned silence as they watched human forces dismantle a Zarathi fleet that should have been unstoppable. Admiral Kethvar played the tactical footage for the 5th time, trying to understand what he was seeing. Human ships moved in patterns that violated every principle of standard space combat. They accelerated at impossible rates, coordinated attacks with split-second timing, and showed a level of tactical innovation that seemed beyond the capabilities of any known species. "Run the battle analysis again," he ordered his staff. "Sir," his tactical officer replied, "we've analyzed it thoroughly. The humans achieved a 30-to-1 kill ratio against a superior enemy force. Their casualty rates were lower than anything in our military database." "How?" Dr. Kent asked from his position as observer. "Their technology levels are comparable to ours. Their ship designs are actually less advanced in some areas. How did they achieve such overwhelming success?" Captain Webb sat at the briefing table, still wearing his combat uniform from the battle. The aliens had insisted on debriefing him immediately after the Zarathi retreat. "Because you've been thinking about warfare all wrong," Webb said simply. "You treat it like a formal competition with rules and etiquette. We treat it like hunting." Hunting. Ambassador Zixthara's skin showed the deep purple patterns of confusion. "I don't understand the distinction." Dr. Sarah Chen, who had arrived on the first transport after the battle, pulled up a holographic display showing Earth's ecosystem. "Let me give you some context about human evolution. For millions of years, our ancestors were both predators and prey. We had to hunt to survive, but we also had to avoid being hunted. This is basic evolutionary biology," Dr. Kent said. "Many species have similar backgrounds. Not like humans," Dr. Chen continued. "Most species specialized. They became either predators or prey, with clear adaptations for one role or the other. Humans became something different. We became persistence hunters. She activated a simulation showing early humans tracking an animal across a landscape. We weren't the fastest or strongest predators on Earth, but we were the most determined. We could track wounded prey for days, weeks if necessary. We never gave up. But how does this relate to space combat? Admiral Kethavar asked. Captain Webb answered. Because the same mental traits that made us effective hunters made us effective warriors. We don't fight for territory or resources like most species. We fight to protect our pack. And when something threatens our pack, we don't stop until the threat is eliminated. The alien officers exchanged glances. This explanation didn't match any of their previous assumptions about human behavior. Dr. Chen brought up footage from the ground battle. Watch how our soldiers move. They're not following standard military doctrine. They're using pack hunting strategies that our species perfected over millions of years. The footage showed human troops coordinating their movements with an efficiency that seemed almost telepathic. They anticipated each other's actions, covered weaknesses automatically, and adapted their tactics in real time based on enemy responses. This is why we domesticated wolves, Dr. Chen explained. Not because we were gentle, but because we recognized fellow pack hunters. We understood their social structure because it was similar to our own. Ambassador Zix Thera finally began to understand the magnitude of the Council's miscalculation. You're saying that your treatment of animals wasn't a sign of weakness? Just the opposite, Captain Webb replied. Our pets are proof that we're secure enough in our position as apex predators to show mercy to creatures that can't threaten us. A weak species can't afford to waste resources on non-productive animals. Dr. Kent pulled up his notes from the initial first contact observations. But you seem so peaceful, so nurturing. We are peaceful, Dr. Chen said, when we're not threatened. But the Zarathi made the mistake of threatening our colonies. They threatened our families, our homes, our pets. That changed everything. The briefing was interrupted by urgent communications from across Council space. Zarathi forces were retreating from multiple sectors, broadcasting warnings about human military capabilities. The invasion that had seemed unstoppable was collapsing. Council leader Braxanon addressed the emergency session that followed. We need to reassess our understanding of human capabilities. Dr. Chen, Captain Webb, we owe you an apology. No apology necessary, Dr. Chen replied. You classified us based on the information available. We just didn't provide all the relevant information. Why? Asked Dr. Kent. Why hide your military capabilities? Captain Webb stood up to address the assembly. Because we learned a long time ago that being known as dangerous has drawbacks. Other species either want to fight you to prove themselves, or they want to control you to use your capabilities for their own purposes. We preferred to be underestimated. Admiral Kethavar accessed tactical reports from across the war zone. The Zarathi are requesting ceasefire negotiations. They want to discuss terms for ending hostilities. What are you planning to tell them? Braxanon asked. Dr. Chen looked at Captain Webb, who nodded slightly. We're going to tell them the truth, she said. That humans don't negotiate with species that threaten civilians. That we don't accept partial victories when our families are at risk. And that if they want this war to end, they need to withdraw from Council space entirely and never come back. And if they refuse? Zix Thera asked. Captain Webb's expression was cold and predatory. Then we'll do what our ancestors did with saber-toothed cats and cave bears. We'll hunt them until they're extinct. The casual way he said it sent chills through every alien in the chamber. This wasn't a threat or bluster. It was a simple statement of fact, delivered by someone who clearly had the capability to follow through. Over the following weeks, the Zarathi Empire learned exactly what humans meant by total warfare. Human fleets appeared in Zarathi space using routes that intelligence services insisted were impossible. Human special forces infiltrated Zarathi command centers and eliminated key personnel with surgical precision. Human electronic warfare specialists turned Zarathi communications networks against themselves. But the most devastating human weapon wasn't technology. It was psychology. Zarathi soldiers began deserting when they realized they were fighting an enemy that never stopped, never tired, and never forgot. Human forces would track fleeing ships across multiple star systems, appearing wherever the Zarathi tried to regroup or resupply. General Vorthak, Supreme Commander of Zarathi military forces, finally understood what his empire was facing when human forces cornered his personal fleet in a supposedly secret base. The human admiral who contacted him was a woman named Rebecca Torres. She appeared calm and professional, as if hunting down enemy commanders was routine business. "General," she said, "your empire has two choices. Complete withdrawal from all council territories plus reparations for damages caused, or we continue this war until your civilization no longer exists." "You can't be serious," Vorthek replied. "We have billions of citizens, thousands of worlds, military forces you haven't even encountered yet." Admiral Torres's expression didn't change. "General, let me explain something about human nature. We domesticated wolves by being more persistent than they were. We survived ice ages by being more adaptable than the climate. We reached the stars by being more determined than physics said was possible. Do you really want to test whether we're more persistent than your entire civilization?" The general looked at his tactical displays. Human forces had tracked his fleet across 15 star systems to reach this supposedly hidden base. They had fought through defensive positions that should have taken months to overcome. And they showed no signs of slowing down or losing momentum. "What guarantee do we have that you'll honor a ceasefire?" he asked. "The same guarantee we give our pets," Torres replied. "As long as you don't threaten our pack, we have no reason to hurt you. But if you ever threaten human space again, we'll finish what you started." 3 days later, the Zarathi Empire formally surrendered and agreed to all human terms. The war that was supposed to eliminate human civilization had instead eliminated the Zarathi as a galactic power. Dr. Chen stood before the Galactic Council one final time. "We'd like to formally request a change in our species classification. From caretaker species to what?" Braxnon asked. "We suggest apex predator civilization," Dr. Chen replied. "It's more accurate." The council had to create an entirely new classification category. No known species had ever qualified for such a designation. Dr. Kent raised his hand. "Dr. Chen, one question. If humans are such capable warriors, why do you spend so much time and resources caring for small animals?" Dr. Chen smiled and pulled up an image of a child playing with a dog. "Because that's what apex predators do when they're secure in their position. We protect the weak, care for the helpless, and show mercy to those who can't threaten us. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength." "And the pets?" Zixthera asked. "Why keep predators as companions?" "Because we respect worthy opponents," Captain Webb answered. "Wolves were the only other pack hunters on Earth that could challenge us. When we won,